it's Benita from Benita Doodles. I've been wanting to do this review for some time now. It's just taken me quite a long time to get around to do it, so apologies for that. We are doing a review on a various amount of graphite pencils. This is how I taught myself to draw and practice every day with. Cheaper than coloured pencils to begin with, and a really great way to get you started. We're going to be looking at the Tombow, which is a Japanese brand, Caran, and the Caran I have got the technograph, and the other one is the graphwood, which is also Caran. We are going to be looking at the Staedtler Mars and Daler Rowney. There's two different Daler Rowneys. This one is simply sketching, which I think is like the lower to mid-range, and then we've got the Derwent graphic, which is the higher ones, which is what I actually started using. And then I wanted to bring in some of the real cheaper brands, because that's how I taught myself colour pencils, actually was with the cheaper brands. And then we've got Shadow Play, which is WH Smith's. So the sharpener that I will be using is the Helix A5, and I'll show you a video of that before we get started, as some of these need sharp. I'll get them all sharpened up for you while we're doing the review, so you can see how well the sharpener works with these pencils as well. The Helix A5 you can pick up for about £6.99, I think, off Amazon, eBay, various places like that. I've had mine for well over a year now, and it's never let me down, so it's a really good sharpener. The paper we're going to be doing the samples on is, and forgive my pronunciation, is the Hahnemühle, and it's the Schizo paper, which is purposely for pencil, charcoal, crayons and brush drawings. It's not a very heavy weight. It's only £55 or 120 GSM. So we're not going to be doing anything major on here. We are literally just going to be showing you the lay down, how it blends, and whether or not actually there's much of a colour difference between the brands. But we'll get to that in a moment, so I'll just get everything set up and then we'll have a look at them. I completely forgot to mention the brand I actually use at the moment all the time, which is the Faber-Castell 9000s. Okay, as promised, here's the Helix A5, which is a desk sharpener, and you've got up to 5 functions on here, so 5 being the bluntest all the way up to 1, which is the sharpest. I tend to flip between 1, 2 and 3, but as a rule, actually using graphite, depending on the size of the portrait, I can keep it on 1 quite a lot, and it sharpens really well. So just one of those that you put the pencil in the end, it grabs onto it here, wind the handle, and then it sharpens it for you. So rather than having that right in the way, we shall attach it onto the side of the desk with our little clamp here, and then we shall make a start. Okay, so value, I can't actually remember off the top of my head, and prices will vary depending on what shops you go to. So what I thought I would do is, just rather than work up from value, I will just grab whatever the first one is that I happen to grab. I've tried to keep them all at 2B and 2H, so you can see both ends of the spectrums. Might even be a 4B in there as well, but the main ones I use are 2B, 4B and 2H. So I'll just grab the first one. So the first one is the Shadow Play, and the Shadow Play is the WH Smith's. So we'll just pop that through the sharpener. You hear that going, and you'll see the sort of point that you get on the end of it. It does eat a lot of wood, but you find actually that you have to sharpen your pencils less. So that is actually quite handy, that you can have them less. So have to sharpen them less, sorry, which at the end of the day is obviously value because it saves you some money. So this is WH, look, my lead's broken now. This is because my kids use these. Should we try that again? So this is WH Smith. Now again, depending on the paper that you use, your effects may vary. Generally, I will use either a Daler-Rowney Bristol board, which I believe on the front it actually says airbrushing, or the Strathmore 300 series, which is the Bristol Smooth. Some people like the vellum surface. I'm not as keen. I do prefer the smooth surface, so that's really down to you and down to your preference. So all I'm going to do is just do a very, very basic bit of marking. So that is 4B, and then we'll move on to the 2H. I will also show you how they blend out as well, as I think it's probably worth you seeing what they're like. And I shall grab a new blender just for the job. Nice new clean one. It's a big one, but you want a nice clean one, don't you? And this one is the 2H. Now the H's you'll be using for detail, so you're not going to get much of a blend out of that because it's much harder. Burnishes very quickly, and when I mean burnish, it has that graphite shine that you either love or you hate. And I think if you're just starting out and you're just learning and you really have got a tight budget, let's try and get that in focus a bit more for you guys. There we go. Yeah, if you really are sticking to quite a tight budget, then they're not too bad to go for. Make it look like a W, shall we? Okay. So they were the WH Smiths. So the blending out wasn't too bad. Now I think, value-wise, the Derwent sketching. Now this is a triangle pencil I'm putting through this sharpener, and it still does the same job. That was a triangle pencil. So this is the Derwent sketching, Daler-Rowney, sorry. Daler-Rowney sketching. And do you know, I can't even remember why I actually purchased these. I think I just went through a phase of trying everything. I won't worry about sharpening the 2H on this occasion. The 2H isn't as black as the WH Smith H, I don't think. When we lay it down, the colours are going to be slightly distorted through the camera too. So we're going to blend that out. That goes quite far, that one. Got a coloured pencil on the end of there. The 2H doesn't blend out actually as much as the, oh, it's 4H anyway. No, it's not. It is 2H. I've just written the wrong number down. So 4B, 2H. You can actually see that this is much blacker than the WH Smith. neither of them are particularly powdery, which is a good thing. Now these I haven't used before. Now this is the technograph, which is Caran, which the Caran brands are one of the highest value brands, and I do only have the B in this, as this was sent to me as a sample. So this is Caran dash, and it's a technograph, and it's a B. It's quite nice to write with. It's quite a firm lead actually, so I would imagine that this is probably very much so for your technical drawings. Blends out very nicely. It's quite grainy compared to the Daler sketching, but again this is a B, I suppose, so it's not a true comparison in that sense. So that's the technograph. It has a much smoother blending out actually. Okay, so we have a 4B graphwood. Now, what actually attracted me to these is I bought 3 of these. As I say, in my most used repertoire of pencils. I can do probably a good 60% of a portrait in 2 pencils. And that's 2B and a 4B. And don't be shocked, by the way, as the pencil sharpener is a bit of an eater. It looks like I chew pencils, but I don't. So, again, this is Caran, but instead of the technograph, these ones are graphwood. So, graphwood. Now, instantly, just from writing this alone, I can feel the difference in the lead. So I'm not applying much pressure at all. I'm just gently starting off as I would a portrait. So I brought 2B, 4B and 2H. And 2H is really, really good for just getting in details. And a little trick which you can do is when you've finished your portraits is without adding any more depth, you can go over with something like a 2H and it fills in all the bits. So again, we've got a nice bit of smoothing out there. Just trying to use different areas so it doesn't influence. That 2H blends out really nicely actually. Really nicely. There's hardly any blend line at all there. So if we can get that to do the same. There. Not much at all really. Try that on these. Just got to keep turning it, otherwise you end up just spreading it about. Let's clean that off a bit. There we go. So that was the 2H, sorry. And that was the graphwood. And you really can feel the difference when you're using the pencil. Now the Staedtler Mars is one that I see come up quite often, and I've only got a 2B and a 4B. I don't have an H. So we'll compare the 4B. So Staedtler Mars, you've probably seen quite a few people use it. Is one that comes up quite often, and he's one that I've always wanted to try, but I couldn't justify buying more pencils. But this was I spent my birthday money on these because I wanted to have a good try, and I'd always wanted to try the Tombows actually because they get rave reviews, and the art shop that I got them from actually said that they were her favourite. What I'll do at the end is I might do a quick eye or something in each. You can see that that blend out isn't quite as smooth. I know I'm doing it very quickly, and obviously you'd spend a lot more time smoothing and blending out. So you'd come over again, change pressure. With regards to burnishing, there is almost no burnishing at all on the graphwood. The Staedtler come up quite quickly. The W.H. Smith was instant. The Daler Rowney was pretty quick. The Technograph was pretty quick. But this graphwood, I don't know whether my light is going to pick it up. Yeah. Can you see the shine on here? That's like you're burnishing it. So you're really sort of pushing down the tooth of the paper. But when you look at the shine on the graphwood compared to this W.H. Smith, for example, there's hardly any on there, which is really good. So the Tombow, I brought 4. I brought a B, a 4B, a 2H and a 5B. And I think the only reason I got the 5B was because they didn't have the 2B. I can't remember now. There was a reason behind it. Okay, loads of noise now from the sharpener. And it's probably going to take a little while because it's got no lead showing at all. There we go. So nice clean point. If you've never heard of Tombow, they make the eraser that I use, the Tombow Mono. So it's Tombow. And they're huge in Japan. Well, we've got 2 names on here, Homograph and a Mono 100. So I'm not entirely sure what they would be classed as. Mono 100, I would probably say. But their sharpener is one of the best sharpeners I've ever used. Their eraser, sorry, is one of the best erasers I have ever used. And in fact, I'll go through that in a minute, which ones erase. It's quite smooth, and creamy is not the right word to use for graphite. But it does feel quite smooth. There's shine coming off it already though. I'm trying not to push too hard when I blend out because I don't want to burnish it too much. And again, your paper will have different effects too. But I just wanted to use a light smooth paper for this review. Now my lighting seems to be really playing about because it looks quite a solid block there, but actually when you're looking at it from where I am, that's going quite far as well. It's quite a smooth blend out. So that was the 4B. Let's try the 2H. Now, as I mentioned, these are what the art shop actually said were her favourites. So I might do a very, very quick basic eye in a moment, just have a play. That's quite scratchy, that H. Should be great for detailed hair and things. Just using a clean part of the... So even though that was quite scratchy, it's blending out quite well. As I say, you'd spend ages blending and doing whatever techniques you do for yours. Okay, so we need my equivalent to compare. So here is my Faber-Castell 9000. Now, to write, the graphwood and the Faber-Castells feel very similar. I would say that the Tombow was quite similar to the Caran technograph. And I would probably compare not the Smiths and the Mars in the sense of quality, but how they felt in using them. I won't bother sharpening me. But this is my favourite brand to use, the 9000s. I found that you get a much richer tones. But I am quite excited to try the graphwood and the Tombow. I think I would actually get on better with them than I would the Staedtler Mars. You can see the blend out. How clean that blend out is. Very similar to the graphwood. In fact, better than the graphwood, I think. So that is laying those brands down. So let's have a go at erasing them. So this is the Tombow Mono. This is the eraser that I use on all my portraits, and it works like a mechanical pencil. So your erasers come in these tiny little leads, 2.3mm, and they're round. You can get a rectangle version, and the rectangle version is 2.5 by 5, and it's exactly the same, but it's a rectangle version there. I don't know if you can see it better like that. You get some nice edges with those, and they're great for larger portraits. But my go-to, and I've now got two in the house because I'm too scared I'm going to lose the other one, is the Tombow Mono, the 2.3 round. So if you do order one, make sure that you get the round. Okay, so it works just like a mechanical pencil. You don't want these too high, because if you have them too high, when you use them, they have the plastic all the way through, but you run the risk of bending it, and also if you run through to the plastic too much, you will then scratch your paper. I think the plastic ends sort of about here, somewhere like that, but I try and get as much out of it as I can. But if you run it too low, you'll end up scratching, so just make sure you've got it probably 3mm down. So the Smiths, so we're just going to do a couple of swipe throughs and see how we go. So that's on the 4B. Give it a good clean. The 2H. Gone through them quite nicely. The Daler-Rowney sketching. Again, nice and clean. But we have only got one layer down. It's when you start layering upon layer that you then have the trouble. So the Caran has come out nice and clean too. Just go through them. Ah, that it's not picking up very well on the camera, but this one, the Staedtler Mars, on the thicker end, it's taking much more to erase it out. That took quite a few pass overs, where these were sort of 2 or 3. So the Tombow, again, several. The reason you don't want to go over too many times, several times, because you'll end up damaging your paper. So actually, so far the Daler Rowney, both the Caran Dash have been very good. The Tombow ones aren't too bad. It's just taken a much more of a pass. These are much cleaner than this side. And then the Faber-Castell. Again, takes a few more passes, but it's quite a clean once you've erased it down. So if I go in with, let's just grab whatever I've got first. These are very, very basic eyes, and probably it's a very strange angle for you too. See, with the 2B, it is really, really soft. So when you're going for detail, it's really hard to explain. Let me sharpen the 9000. So if I draw one next to it, can you see? I don't know how well that's going to pick up. The lines are much cleaner, much sharper. So they're both 4B. I think in the, you can tell it's the first time I've used it, so let's see, just a case of playing and you're going to get, this is really black, really, really black, to the point actually where I think you'd want to use the entire range on a portrait. If we rub that out, so I'm going to do exactly the same on the other one. This is much more graphite colour. You almost, I'm gonna, no I won't. Just thinking to myself whether we use the other option. So yeah, it's a lot blacker, the Tombow. So if I do the pupil, for example, let's just get that in. You're going to take several passes over to get that pupil as dark as you want to get it. Get a bit of detail in there. I think my so I can get a full range with a 2B and a 4B on a portrait. I can get an awful lot done with just those two pencils. I think that with the Tombow you'd end up using the lower range majority of the time. So if I go in and do that pupil, So that's one pass and it's quite black already. I think for fine intricate details you're going to really have to come down, possibly even to the B. I have got a B, so let me sharpen that. We'll have a quick look. Apologies for the sharpener noises. I know they're not the... See, even the B actually is really dark. So B. And the B is very soft. I would actually say, if you was to compare it, the B is the equivalent to the Faber-Castell 4B. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but there'd be an awful lot of retraining if I ever changed to this brand of pencil. See what it erases like when we're... So if I go into the 9000, that erases quite nicely. It's a bit of a struggle on the Tombow. I'd have to pass over several times. So how dark can we go with this B? Pretty dark. Yeah, you could get quite a lot done in probably 2 or 3 pencils in that range. So if you are going to look at buying them, I wouldn't buy any higher than a 4B. I've got a 5B, so I dread to think actually how dark that goes. You can get pretty dark with the Faber-Castells, and that's the 9000. So if I do a quick one with the, what have I got in the Staedtler Mars? The Staedtler Mars. So this was the Faber-Castell, this was the Tombow Mono, and now we're going to do a Staedtler Mars. Got a page full of eyes. I'm only drawing these very quickly, so again, it's very, very soft as you use them. I think that's probably some of the reason why I like the 9000 so much, is because the detail that you can achieve, and I know lots of people do achieve the details with these as well, but I'm just going to use the graphite that's left on my stubby to get quite, just doing a little veining here to see just how much. And it's not terrible. With the 9000, for example, it's just, don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but you can get some really, really fine detail. So let's draw a line. So 4B. So this is the Tombow Mono. Then we've got the Staedtler. Probably not going to see much difference. And then, well, you can see actually that this one's the blackest. You've gone sort of up. So I definitely think I may actually end up using one of the Tombow Monos to get some of the real dark areas on to my pictures. I think it might actually be worth bearing that in mind and not dismissing them completely. So the graphwood, which this one, let's have a quick go. I would actually compare the graphwood with the 9000s. They're a lot tougher. The lead is a lot tougher. That's probably the best way to explain it. So it's a lot harder when you're drawing with them. So I think you would end up getting a bit more control over how dark you go, because you don't want to go too dark too quickly. It's easier to add than it is to take away. You do burnish very quickly with these though, or graphite shiners. It's also might even be getting a bit of graphite shine off my LEDs at the moment. Yeah, they are very similar, these two. So the Staedtler is that one. I quite like but then I haven't done any sort of weird pupil strokes in there, but I quite like how smooth the Staedtler looks, but you're not going to get much in the way of fine detail unless you really do go down to the B's and the H's. So the other ones then are I didn't do the Derwent graphic. Derwent graphic. And I couldn't find my 4B. So all I can do is use the 3B. There's been quite a lot of graphite on here already, so I need to use a fairly clean end. Similar to the graphwood. Be a bit naughty here, I won't sharpen it. It's a lot smoother, not smoother, creamy is not the word to use, softer. Again, you could get fine details from these as long as you're keeping your pencil, with every pencil really, but certainly for detail the Faber-Castell 9000 and the graphwood, I think, are going to be your best bets for those. Again, this is down to personal preference. It's down to drawing style, what you're used to. But, you know, this is just my opinion, and how I find them in the way that I use them. So everyone's opinion would be different. But it gives you an idea of how they sit with each other. But yeah, I have to say that I do think, for me, the Faber-Castell 9000, and I quite liked the graphwood. My concern with Tombow Mono is how black they are, and they really are black. So I would consider only buying a couple, having a go and seeing how you get on with them before you look at buying the whole range, because I quite honestly don't think you would need the whole range. So hopefully you found that useful. Gives you an idea what they're like. Gives me an idea what they're like. As I say, I've not used these before, so it's a review for me as well as for you. If you've got any specific questions, or you want me to do a review on anything else, pop a comment below. It's worth subscribing to the channel. I do upload videos as often as I can, but not as regularly as I would like. But yeah, any questions, just pop me a message or come and find me on my Facebook page or my Bonita Doodles Art Share group on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram as well. So hopefully you found that useful, and thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.